and seeing how they stack up against human attempts to battle their way into the record books. Discover that all's fair in love and war when fighting is taken to the most extreme.
Earth is a planet of extremes. Extreme places. And extreme animals. But some animals are more extreme than others. Join us as we count down to find the most unusual and the most extraordinary on Animal Planet's The Most Extreme. Number 10.
Take a close look at the cat. For inside this tiny hunter is the heart of an animal that's roaring in to number 10 in the countdown. The lion is the king of the jungle, but only because it knows how to fight for its kingdom. The lion is built to fight. It can weigh more than 3 men and has enough muscle to break a zebra's back with a single blow. It's number 10 in the countdown because for thousands of years, lions were a worthy foe for the strongest fighters in history. But Hercules wasn't the only guy to fight a lion. Right from the time of our earliest ancestors, we've had to fight all kinds of animals for survival, including each other. All animals have to fight for food, or shelter, or a mate. And in the animal kingdom, it's the best fighter that usually gets the girl. The male lion that's the best fighter has all the girls too. But since all he has to do is fight off other males, he has lots of time to do what males do best. Lions are only number 10 in the countdown because although they're great fighters, they can sleep up to 20 hours each day. It's the females who have to do all the hard work of hunting and raising the kids. But a lioness is a fighter in her own right. In fact, sometimes lazy males can get a lesson about the strength of girl power. Perhaps we should be calling the lion the queen of the jungle.
Number 9.
At number 9 in the countdown is a truly extreme fighting machine with armor plating outside and high explosive inside. It's found in battlefields around the world. You just have to know where to look. Blasting its way into number 9 in the countdown is a bug with a bomb in its butt. The bombardier beetle gets its name because it blasts boiling hot toxic chemicals out its backside. But the beetle has a problem. How do you make sure the bomb doesn't blow your bottom off? The secret lies in keeping the two explosive ingredients well separated. In one gland, it stores hydrogen peroxide, a potent chemical we use as rocket fuel. It squirts a little into a reaction chamber and then adds enzymes. The result is explosive. The beetle can fire this cannon 700 times a second. And by strange coincidence, this kind of explosion was found in a very different kind of bug. This is a doodlebug, the nickname of the V-1 rocket manufactured by Germany in World War II. These flying bombs were powered by an engine that bore an uncanny resemblance to the bombardier beetle's backside. The pulsing series of explosions gave the V-1 rocket several nicknames, as well as doodlebugs. They were called buzz bombs and farting furies. But the bombardier beetle packs a punch in its pants, not to fly, but to fight. Thanks to this secret weapon, the spider ends up with a burnt face full of toxic chemicals, while the beetle lives to fight another day.
We've fought our way past the first two contenders, but we've still got to wrestle with animals that are so strong they can bring armies to their knees. Get ready for a real knockout next on Animal Planet's The Most Extreme. Number 8.
Some fighters have a nose for trouble. The elephant seal gets its name not only from that trunk-like snout, but because it is very, very big. It's as large as a Volkswagen and twice as heavy. That's because for bull elephant seals, size really does matter. For when it comes to throwing their weight around, nothing can compare with an elephant seal. The bigger they are, the better their chances of mating. A bull fights to control the beach, because on the beach is his harem. Up to 50 females can be jealously guarded by a single male. But it's not easy looking after all those females. The harem is an attractive target for all the other males and their raging libidos. They don't get a chance to mate unless they can beat the Beachmaster. As well as being incredibly fat, bull elephant seals have developed a thick calloused chest shield as protection against all the pushing and shoving. And in Japan, some humans have done much the same thing. There's no weight class in sumo wrestling, so just like elephant seals, bigger is usually better. But wrestlers have a secret weapon. Their loincloths are never washed. They believe if you wash the loincloth, you might wash away all the wrestler's experience. Considering that a professional sumo's career can last more than 10 years, there's an awful lot of experience in that loincloth. Bull elephant seals need both great experience and great size to keep control of their harem. But sometimes, the biggest bulls on the beach don't always get the girl. A sneaky male will wait for the beach master to have his hands full with the latest challenger. Then, he makes his move. It's a race to find an unguarded female before the beach master realizes there's an intruder in the harem. It just goes to show that sometimes brains really are better than brawn.
If you thought battling bulls, beetles with bombs, and lazy lions were great fighters, coming up is a bug that's a kung fu master. That's next on Animal Planet's The Most Extreme. Number 7.
In all the kingdom of the living, there is no more deadly or voracious creature than the praying mantis.
We're lucky the praying mantis only grows to enormous size in horror movies, because this really is one bad bug. It's number 7 in the countdown, because this fighter strikes with lightning speed. The strike of the mantis takes only 31 thousandths of a second. It can catch not only insects, but soft-shelled turtles, mice, frogs, and birds. So when it comes to fighting, just how good is a mantis? Catching harmless insects is one thing, but what about taking on a spectral tarsier? This Indonesian primate is 100 times heavier than a mantis and hunts bugs for a living. If a mantis can fight off a hungry hunter like the tarsier, it's not surprising that some humans have tried to copy its moves. Welcome to Kung Fu, mantis style. About 400 years ago, a Chinese martial arts master called Wang Long was really impressed by the praying mantis's concentration and devastatingly fast strike. Today, variations of praying mantis kung fu are practiced all over the world. including here in Honolulu with instructor Sifu David Moraney.
We imitate the insect. It makes it actually kind of sneaky and very powerful, you know? People go, oh, well, what happened? Or how did that happen? Nobody knows. You're not broadcasting. You're not telling anyone what you're about to do. Okay, Matt, I'm explaining to you Mashu, hooking hand, punch, and I hook here, and I'll strike. Once you make contact, you know automatically that at the top of the arm is the head, so you don't have to think about it. You can just strike, Is you use the other person's energy against them, okay? So if a person is pushing against you, you don't have to resist. There's always someone stronger than you. So why play the game of trying to match someone's strength?
Unfortunately, the strength of the mantis causes problems when it's time to play a different kind of game. Because the female mantis is such a lethal fighter, the smaller male really puts his body on the line when it's time to mate. Sometimes things go horribly wrong. Fortunately, the male can continue copulating without its head. It's not much fun for the male, but at least the female gets a good dose of protein, which will provide a head start for her eggs and the next generation of extreme fighters.
Number 6.
To find number 6 in the countdown, you have to travel to the frozen wastes of the Arctic. The polar bear doesn't have many friends. It's a solitary animal, and it likes it that way. For when two bears are after the same food or mate, bad things happen. Polar bears are number 6 in the countdown because they are devastating fighters. An adult bear can weigh as much as 7 men. One swipe of its huge paw could take out prey 3 times its size. There's really only one animal that could take on a polar bear and win, and that's another polar bear. They're just too big and too fast. So it's no wonder the bear was an inspiration for a group of human warriors. 1,000 years ago, Europe was terrorized by the Vikings. And the most feared Vikings of all were those fighters who believed if they wore a specially treated bearskin shirt called a bear sark, something amazing would happen. The warrior would magically gain the fighting abilities of the bear. In their magic bearskins, the warriors went totally nuts. They fought in such a frenzy that it was from the Vikings' bear sark that we got the word berserk. The terrible fighting abilities of the bear still fascinate people today. But luckily for the polar bear, now when people go berserk, they don't need a bearskin shirt.
While only the best fighters in the world could battle a bear, it's still only number 6 in the countdown. For coming up are animals whose power will knock your head off. and whose stink will clear the streets. That's next on Animal Planet's The Most. Number 5.
One animal knows when it comes to fighting, it pays to use your head. This is a muskox. It's number 5 in our countdown because underneath that shaggy coat is the most extreme headbanger on the planet. Most of the time, musk oxen graze peacefully on the Arctic tundra. But when two males get together, it pays to get out of the way. This tooth-rattling collision would kill a human. Yet males will charge at each other up to 20 times or more during a fight. Hurtling towards each other at 20 miles an hour would be like going head first into a car wreck. Musk oxen survive their head-on crashes because they're the biggest boneheads on the planet. There's 4 inches of horn and 3 inches of bone directly over the brain in the area of impact. Humans don't have this cushioning, which can be a problem on a different kind of field. Today, only a special breed of warrior charges head first into the opposition. Football players can collide at 15 miles per hour. The trouble is that in the collision, the brain keeps moving when the skull stops. When the brain crashes into the skull, we get concussed because the impact damages the delicate nerve tissue. That's why we invented the helmet. By absorbing the shock of impact, it helps protect the brain. But the most extreme helmets were worn by medieval knights who fought like the muskox. Protection came not from 4 inches of bone in the skull, but from elaborate suits of armor that weighed half as much as the knight. You needed all the protection you could get when you sat on top of half a ton of warhorse charging at 25 miles an hour. Even with suits of armor, knights were killed or maimed at jousting tournaments. People needed to find a new way of fighting with lances, which is how we ended up with a toy that's still in use today. The carousel was originally developed with dummies riding on the toy horses, which were a much safer target for a charging knight. Jousting may be child's play for the muskox, but when our next contender fights, it's a family affair.
Number 4.
Sliding in at number 4 is the most unusual fighter in the countdown. Here at Orana Park in New Zealand, they've had to build a moat to keep this contender contained. For while this animal can't swim, it can fight. The keeper is about to meet one of his distant cousins. For at number 4 in the countdown is the Madagascan ring-tailed lemur, the cuddliest animal in the countdown. But looks can be deceiving, for these primates have turned war into a fight for the whole family. These lemurs are marching to battle, and it's women and children first. That's because in a lemur troop, it's the females that are large and in charge. So in a fight for their territory, the females and their babies are in the front line. But the main reason these animals are number 4 in the countdown is that when it comes to fighting, lemurs really stink. First of all, they mark their territory using special scent glands on their wrists. But lemurs also invented stench warfare, as wildlife educator Susan Clevin explains.
Ringtail lemurs fight using a scent gland that's on their wrist. They rub it with their hands. They actually transfer the scent from the glands onto their hands and then also onto their tail. And they fling the scent at one another, and this helps to establish territory. It's pretty stinky to a ringtail lemur.
Male lemurs are extreme wimps. They're terrified of the females and will only fight other males by flinging perfume at each other with their tails. It's an extremely safe way of fighting, and it's found its way into the research laboratories of the U.S. Department of Defense. Scientists are hoping to design a smell so they can fight like a lemur. But nobody will wear this perfume on their wrist because researchers aim to invent the worst smell in the world. Imagine if you could use smell as an offensive weapon. You could clear the streets in no time if you dropped the ultimate stink bomb. And unlike rubber bullets and tear gas, the only thing a stink bomb would hurt is your nose. It seems that bad smells are big news for more than just the lemur.
If you think you smell stronger than a pungent primate, butt heads better than a muskox, or can go toe-to-toe with a polar bear, then get ready for a hell of a fight when you take on the devil himself. That's next on Animal Planet's The Most. Number 3.
When traveling in Tasmania, never, ever pick a fight with the devil. The Tasmanian devil is number 3 in the countdown because it's such a ferocious fighter. Its life is a constant battle fought with jaws 8 times more powerful than a Doberman. They leave painful scars that can sometimes be fatal. Usually, the only time devils meet is to fight for food or for sex. That's the problem of being genetically hardwired to fight. There's not much romance in the life of a devil. After only 1 week of violent courtship, this she-devil has decided that her mate's been mooching around her burrow for too long. It's time to take out the trash. In this battle of the sexes, the female always wins. The male is back to roaming the forest alone, picking fights with other devils and camera crews. This little marsupial may be one hell of a fighter, but our next contender makes even the devil look positively angelic.
Number 2.
To find number 2 in our countdown of extreme fighters in its homeland, you have to travel to Southeast Asia. Once, these fighters were found in the shallow, dirty waters of irrigation ditches and rice paddies. That's because number 2 in the countdown is a fish. It doesn't look much like a fighter, but its scientific name, Betta splendens, translates as beautiful warrior. Their good looks have made them popular aquarium fishes, but there's a problem. These warriors need special care and attention because they're born to fight. They're so aggressive that they have to be kept in solitary confinement, according to Los Angeles betta breeder Faith.
The main challenge that us betta breeders have is the fact that we have to deal with this aggressive behavior and isolate all of these fish. It causes us a lot of logistic problems. We have to have thousands of jars. Each fish has to be in a separate jar. And if they did not have that aggressive behavior, it certainly make our hobby a lot easier and more enjoyable.
Bettas are number 2 in the countdown because if you put 2 males in the same tank, they'll use their razor-sharp teeth to rip each other to shreds. The loser can sometimes bleed to death.
We do not know why bettas are so aggressive, but I have heard of an experiment that has been done where 2 males were taken to a lake and basically released in the center of the lake, and they had the entire lake for themselves. And they proceeded immediately to fight each other. So we conclude that this is not a matter of territory or space, because they had an entire lake and it was a new territory for them. It's a matter of alpha dominance. In each tank you'll have 1 fish, female or male, that will be the alpha fish. And as long as a fish is in there, it'll keep everybody in line. If you remove that fish, everybody else fights. So there, it suggests that there's an alpha dominance that needs to be established.
And it's this alpha dominance that gave these beautiful warriors another name. For these are the legendary Siamese fighting fish. In Thailand, fish fighting was once a popular sport. People placed bets on which warrior would survive the battle, just like in the Colosseum of ancient Rome. Just like Siamese fighting fish, gladiators were trained to kill in the name of entertainment. Although their lives were often short and brutal, gladiators were the rock stars of their day. In Pompeii, someone scribbled a piece of graffiti on a wall that suggested the gladiator Celadus was a heartthrob. One Roman senator's wife was even said to have preferred gladiators to her country, her children, and her husband. It just goes to show that both fighting men and fighting fish can win the hearts of the girls.
We've seen the 9 contenders. They're the best of the best. Only one animal is a more extreme fighting machine. It's number 1, and it's coming up next on Animal Planet's The Most Extreme. Number 1.
In the frozen forests of northern Europe, the most extreme fighters on the planet sit in a fortress waiting for spring. Each giant mound is home to 1 million or more ants. Ants are number 1 in the countdown because when ants go to war, nothing can stand in their way. Ants are the ultimate warriors because some individuals are literally born to fight. In addition to the ordinary worker ants, some colonies create a caste of professional fighters. This is a soldier ant. Those massive jaws are great for fighting, but not much else. It can't even feed itself and relies on other ants to bring it food to keep it fighting fit. But these soldiers are also equipped with chemical weapons. A sting in the tail of the ant can inject a deadly poison. Individually, each soldier is armed to the teeth. But what makes the ant army so deadly is the sheer weight of numbers. For when ants fight, it really is the attack of the clones. Imagine if the U.S. Army was like an ant colony, and all the soldiers were sisters. In her lifetime, one ant queen could give birth to more soldiers than the entire U.S. military. This is the most extreme fighting force the world has ever seen. There can be up to 20 million sisters living in the biggest single colony of any animal on Earth. For these are army ants. These soldiers are such terrifying fighters that anything that gets in their way is in big trouble, according to Jane Stevens from the St. Louis Zoo.
Army ants are some of the most vicious animals on the planet. These animals are completely driven to get from point A to point B. They will destroy anything in their path. It will not stop no matter what. They will go after tarantulas, they will go after lizards and frogs and toads. They've even attacked humans from time to time.
But ants also attack ants. They're so aggressive that scientist Edward Wilson once said, if ants had nuclear weapons, they'd probably end the world in a week. But even without bombs, ant battles can be devastating. It begins when a scout sees an intruder from a neighboring colony. The alarm is raised and reinforcements pour out of the nest. But ants are smart. They won't commit to a war unless they think they can win. So ants calculate the other colony's strength by judging how many workers show up to battle. They recognize their sisters by odor and separate immediately. Only if they sniff an advantage will they send in all available reinforcements to start fighting. Just like human wars, the worst defeats occur when one side has miscalculated the strength of their opposition. Tactical ant warfare has even attracted interest from human defense analysts. They're taking a close look at ants to try and sharpen their own techniques at estimating the strength of the enemy. For the ants that get it wrong, the results are devastating. Their colony can be completely overwhelmed. The victorious colony will kill the queen, steal the food supplies, and even make slaves of the defeated workers. To try to prevent the devastation of their colony, one race of Asian ants has developed the ultimate warrior. This ant has a huge gland inside its abdomen. In extreme combat, it will rupture its own body wall, causing the gland to explode. The ants are like walking grenades, spraying sticky toxic material all over the enemy. These extreme fighters make the ultimate sacrifice to protect their colony. That's why, when it comes to fighting, the ant really is the most extreme.